As you can imagine, there are various reasons why participants would not be motivated to provide us complete data. For example, there may be an entire scale or just one item in our surveys that touches on a sensitive topic. For example, someone's annual income, perhaps we're asking ethnicity, we're asking if someone's married or not, or perhaps their age, or having them report their sexual behavior. All for the purpose, of course, to impact in a positive way the person's well-being. As researchers, that's always our goal. But certain participants may not want to provide that information for various reasons. And recall with the IRB and the informed consent process, that is the right of the participant to skip any questions that make them feel uncomfortable. That's stated clearly in the informed consent we give them. And so that is a good thing, and that's their right, and we always want to respect that. But the unfortunate part is that when they skip various scales or items, it can bias the data in various ways, which we'll see. Another way that participants may provide incomplete data is when we do longitudinal studies. So over time, we are taking several measurements of participants' mood or their inclination toward depression, for example, and we're tracking this over time. And that's what I really like about longitudinal data, is it gives us this rich picture of the person's changes over time. But the issue comes in to play when the study is a longer one, so it's over several weeks or even months, and at first the participants are very motivated and they recall why they're in the study, and they're being benefited perhaps in some way at the beginning, and over time they get busy and they forget, and so their responses can drop off. And so at later time points, we're not going to have as clear a picture of what's going on as we had in previous time points. So it's important to think about the patterns of missingness and the types of ways that participants give us missing data. This is information that's provided in the SPSS output, which we'll see later on. And so it's also, I think it's a good thing to just simply know at a broad level what the most frequent patterns of missingness were in the data, so that we can get a peek into the participants' minds, perhaps in terms of why they weren't answering the data that we needed them to answer, and maybe tweak the study later on, or when we're designing follow-on studies, to maybe minimize missingness in the future. So that's the goal. Maybe we can eliminate, for example, unnecessary sensitive items that are in the measure. Okay, so we have here an example of missingness and different locations for the missing data. So we have 6 participants from whom we are collecting data at various time points. So we have time 1, 2, etc. And in each cell, if the participant provided data, that is located in the cell, but if they didn't, there is just a dash. And so in this example, we have 4 patterns of missingness. The first pattern is complete data. So we have participants number 1 and number 4 who provided data at all 4 time points. Often, at least in my experience, most people provide no missing data, especially if it's a study that does not require a lot of their time and it's not expensive for them. So this pattern of missingness, complete data, I know that sounds like a contradiction, but one pattern of missingness is that the data is complete. That's just the way it is. And often we see this pattern as the most commonly observed one in our data set. The second pattern of missingness is that we have missingness only on the last time point. So at time 4, we can see that participant 2 didn't provide data, and this is a pattern that's very common in longitudinal studies, especially with many time points. There's this dropping off at the end. And so we have one participant who has that pattern of missingness, pattern 2. Pattern 3, we have a participant missing data only at time 3. And so that person is number 3, and they maybe forgot at that time point or whatever, but they came through on the last one. And so that's yet another pattern of missingness that we observe. And finally, pattern 4 is when the person filled out time 1 and time 3, but didn't at time 2 and time 4. And we see 2 people that meet that criteria, those criteria. Participants 5 and 6, both of them decided to skip 2 and 4. And so we have no more patterns of missingness. We have each participant is accounted for in terms of the location of their missing data. And that's really what a pattern of missingness indicates, is the location of the missing data. We have participants 1 and 4 have no missing data, so they have no locations of missingness. And then we have participant 2 who didn't provide data at time 4 only, and participant 3 didn't provide data at time 3 only, and then 5 and 6 which skipped. They did every other measure, it looks like. Okay, so this is patterns of missingness. I want you to understand that concept and be able to, if I provided an example on an upcoming quiz or exam of something like this where we had so many participants and here are the data points that they did provide versus didn't provide, that you could pick out the patterns and describe them briefly, and then and how the participants fell into those patterns.